The human shuttle moved slowly toward the massive space station. Commander Alina Vasquez stood near the window and watched the giant structure grow larger. Concord Prime was the biggest diplomatic station in the galaxy. Thousands of alien species lived and worked there. Today, humanity would ask to join them. "Are you nervous?" asked Dr. Quan Minjun. He was the team's medical officer and xenobiologist. His job was to study alien life forms. Alina shook her head. "Not nervous. Just ready." Sergeant Darius Cole stood behind them. He was a large man with broad shoulders and kind eyes. He had spent 15 years doing mountain rescue on Earth. Now he protected the diplomatic team. "I heard these aliens don't think much of humans," he said. "Then we will change their minds," Alina replied. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. The doors opened, and the human team stepped onto the station for the first time. The welcoming hall was enormous. Strange lights floated in the air. Aliens of every shape and size filled the space. Some had scales. Some had wings. Some looked like living crystals. Others seemed to be made of pure energy. Every single one of them stared at the humans. Alina heard whispers in languages she did not understand. But she understood the tone. Disappointment, confusion, even amusement. The aliens were not impressed. A tall insectoid creature approached them. He had 4 arms and large compound eyes. His body was covered in hard black shell. He moved with the confidence of someone who had power and knew it. "I am High Arbiter Zelthrax," he said. His voice was cold and sharp. "I lead the Galactic Concord. You are the humans." "Yes," Alina said. "I am Commander Alina Vasquez. We represent Earth and all of humanity. We are honored to be here." Zelthrax looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the other humans. His compound eyes seemed to measure them and find them lacking. "You are smaller than I expected," he said, and softer. "Come. You must complete the species capability assessment before we can consider your application." The assessment took place in a large arena. Hundreds of aliens gathered to watch. Alina quickly understood this was not just a test. It was a show. The Concord wanted to see what humans could do. More importantly, they wanted to see what humans could not do. The first test was strength. A massive creature called a Vakorian stepped forward. He looked like a bear made of stone. With one arm, he lifted a metal block that weighed 2,000 kilograms. He held it above his head as if it was nothing. Then it was Darius Cole's turn. He was the strongest human on the team. He managed to lift 300 kilograms. The crowd made sounds of disappointment. The second test was survival. A crystalline alien walked into a chamber that removed all air. She stood in the vacuum of space for 10 full minutes. She did not need to breathe. She was perfectly fine. The humans could only last seconds without air. They failed that test too. The third test was senses. A Threskin alien demonstrated his ability to see heat, ultraviolet light, and radio waves. He could hear sounds from kilometers away. He could smell a single drop of blood in an ocean of water. Humans could do none of these things. Test after test, humans came last. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They could not survive extreme heat or cold. They needed to sleep for 8 hours every day. They needed to drink water constantly. Their bodies broke easily. When the assessment ended, Zelthrax stood before the crowd. He did not look at the humans when he spoke. "The results are clear," he announced. "Humans are among the weakest species ever to apply for Concord membership. They cannot survive their own planets, weather extremes without artificial protection. Their bodies break from minor falls. They require constant resources just to stay alive." He finally turned to look at Alina. His compound eyes showed no emotion, but his voice carried something like pity. "What could you possibly contribute to this Concord? We have species who can move mountains. We have species who can live in the hearts of stars. What do humans offer?" The crowd waited for Alina's response. Many expected her to argue. Some expected her to beg. A few expected her to cry. Alina did none of these things. She simply stood tall and spoke clearly. We request the standard 30-day evaluation period, she said. As guaranteed to all applicant species in your own laws? Zelthrax's eyes flickered with surprise. He had not expected her to know Concord law. He had not expected her to remain so calm. Very well, he said after a pause. You have 30 days. I doubt it will change anything. The crowd began to leave. The show was over. Humans had proven to be exactly as weak as everyone expected. But one alien stayed behind. She was a luminari, a being made of soft golden light. She was young by her species standards, curious and friendly. Her name was Kira-7. She floated toward Dr. Quan Minjan. Her light pulsed gently as she spoke. Why is water coming from your eyes? She asked. Minjan touched his face. He had not realized he was crying. The humiliation had affected him more than he wanted to admit. Right. It is called crying, he explained. Humans do it when they feel strong emotions. Sadness, frustration, sometimes even happiness. Kira-7 tilted her glowing form. Your body leaks when you feel things. That seems inefficient. Minjan laughed despite himself. Yes, I suppose it does. I have more questions about humans, Kira-7 said. You are very strange. But strange is interesting. For the first time since arriving, Minjun smiled. I would be happy to answer your questions. That night, Alina sat alone in the small quarters assigned to her team. She reviewed the day's events and planned for tomorrow. She refused to give up. Humanity had faced worse odds before. Then the alarms started. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A voice announced emergency protocols in a dozen languages. Alina rushed to the command center, where chaos had erupted. On the main screen, she saw it. A massive cluster of asteroids, hundreds of them tumbling through space directly toward the station. They were too large to destroy. They were too close to avoid. Impact in 6 days, a technician announced. His voice trembled. We cannot stop it. We cannot evacuate everyone. Millions will die. Lena stared at the screen. Around her, aliens began to panic. Some screamed. Some prayed to God she did not know. Some simply stood frozen in fear. But Elena Vasquez did not panic. Her mind was already working on a solution, because that was what humans did. When everything seemed impossible, they found a way. She just needed to figure out what that way was. The emergency meeting lasted through the night. Every important leader on the station gathered in the Grand Council chamber. Engineers presented their findings. Scientists shared their calculations. Military commanders offered their strategies. None of it was good news. The asteroid cluster is too massive, the chief engineer explained. He was a Varelian, a species known for their brilliant minds. Our weapons cannot destroy it. Our shields cannot survive impact. Our engines cannot move the station in time. High Arbiter Zelthrax listened with growing frustration. Then what can we do? Evacuate, the engineer said simply. We have 47 ships capable of long-distance travel. If we start immediately, we can save approximately 15% of the population. The chamber erupted in arguments. Every species demanded priority for their own people. The Vicorians claimed their military strength made them essential. The Crystallines argued their scientific knowledge was too valuable to lose. The Threskin insisted their diplomatic connections gave them importance. No one could agree. No one wanted to be left behind to die. Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the back of the chamber. She had been studying the asteroid data on her tablet for hours. While others argued about who deserved to live, she was looking for a way to save everyone, and she found something. May I speak? She asked. The chamber fell silent. Aliens turned to look at the human with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Zelthrax waved his hand dismissively. The human wishes to contribute. How amusing. Very well, speak quickly. Lena walked to the center of the chamber. She connected her tablet to the main display. The asteroid cluster appeared on the giant screen. The cluster looks solid, but it is not, she began. Look at these density readings. The outer asteroids are just debris. Rock and ice held together by weak gravity. The real threat is this. She pointed to the center of the cluster. A dense core, approximately 12 kilometers wide. We already know this, Zelthrax interrupted. The core cannot be destroyed. Not destroyed, Elena agreed, but destabilized. If we plant explosive charges at specific points on the core, we can fracture it. The fragments would scatter in different directions. Most would miss the station entirely. The rest would be small enough for your shields to handle. The Vrelian engineer studied the calculations. His eyes widened slowly. This could work, he admitted. But there is a problem. The core is surrounded by intense radiation. The levels would kill any known species within minutes. No one could survive long enough to plant the charges. Zelthrax nodded. There, you see? A clever idea, but impossible to execute. Humans should leave strategy to species who understand the galaxy. Elena did not back down. Humans can do it. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even Zelthrax made a clicking sound that seemed to be amusement. You, the weakest species we have ever tested. You would die even faster than others, no, Elena said firmly. We would not. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived radiation from our own sun. Our bodies have backup systems that activate when damaged. We heal injuries that would permanently cripple other species. We can function while sick, while wounded, while exhausted. She looked around the chamber at the powerful aliens who had mocked her people. You tested our strength and found us weak. You tested our senses and found them dull. But you did not test what makes humans special. We do not give up. We do not stop. When prey was faster than us, we chased it for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. When our planet tried to kill us, we adapted and survived. When death is certain, we fight anyway. She straightened her shoulders. My team will fly to that asteroid. We will plant your charges. We will save the station. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Dr. Quan Minjun stepped forward. I volunteer for the mission. Sergeant Darius Cole joined him. So do I. One by one, every human on the station walked to stand beside their commander. 12 volunteers in total. Not one had to be ordered. Not one hesitated. A young luminary named Kira 7 watched from the observation gallery. She did not understand what she was seeing. Why would anyone volunteer to die? Why would they risk everything for people who had insulted them? She floated down to Dr. Quan. You know you will probably die. Why do you go? Minjan looked at her with gentle eyes. Because people will die if we do not. Millions of people. Children, families, beings who have never done anything wrong. But they are not your people, Kira 7 said. They mocked you. They called you weak. That does not matter, Minjun replied. They are still people, and we can help. So we must. Kira 7's light flickered with confusion. In her long life, she had never encountered this kind of thinking. It seemed illogical. It seemed wasteful. But it also seemed beautiful. Ambassador Viral had been watching from the shadows. She was a reptilian diplomat who had served the Concord for centuries. She had seen countless species come and go. She had never seen anything like this. After the meeting ended, she approached Alina privately. Your plan requires a ship, Viral said quietly. The Concord will not give you one. They do not believe you can succeed, and they do not want to waste resources on humans. Alina nodded. She had expected this. But I have access to something that might help, Viral continued. She handed Alina a data chip. Old mining vessel? Decommissioned 30 years ago. It has no radiation shielding, minimal life support, no weapons. But it can reach the asteroid core. Alina took the chip. Why are you helping us? Viral was quiet for a moment. Because I have lived a very long time. I have seen many species claim to be brave. I have seen many species claim to be strong, but I have never seen a species volunteer to die for strangers who hate them. Her scales shifted colors slightly. I want to see what happens next. Alina gathered her team. She explained the mission. She explained the risks. The radiation would be intense. The ship had no protection. Some of them would receive fatal doses before they even reached the core. Some of them would not come back. No one withdrew their name. "We leave in 4 hours," Alina announced. "Rest if you can. Write messages for your families if you want. And know that whatever happens, I am proud of every single one of you." Darius Cole spent his last hours on the station writing a letter to his sister. He told her about the mission. He told her not to be sad. He told her that some things were worth dying for. Then he sealed the letter, picked up his equipment, and walked toward the shuttle bay. The mining vessel waited for them. It was old and ugly and probably dangerous. It would carry them into the heart of a radiation storm that would cook them from the inside out. 12 humans boarded without complaint as the ship launched. Kiro 7 watched from the observation deck, her light dimmed with worry. "Come back," she whispered to the darkness of space. "Please come back." But she knew the truth. Humans were not coming back. They were going to die so that others could live. And for the first time in her existence, Kira 7 understood what true strength looked like. The mining vessel was never designed for comfort. It was built to carry rocks, not people. The 12 humans squeezed into spaces meant for cargo. They breathed recycled air that tasted like metal. They felt every vibration as the old engines pushed them toward the asteroid cluster. Commander Alina Vasquez monitored their course from the cramped control room. Dr. Kwan Minjan checked everyone's vital signs every 15 minutes. Sergeant Darius Cole kept the team calm with quiet jokes and steady confidence. They had been flying for 3 hours when the radiation hit. It came suddenly. It's like walking into an invisible wall of fire. The ship's basic sensors screamed warnings. Numbers climbed into dangerous zones, then critical zones, then beyond anything the sensors could measure. "Radiation exposure beginning," Minjun announced. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. "Everyone take your first dose of medication. It will slow the damage, but it will not stop it." The humans swallowed their pills without complaint. They knew the medicine would only buy them hours. But hours were enough. Hours were all they needed. Back on Concord Prime, millions of aliens watched the mission on public screens. Most expected the humans to turn back when the radiation became serious. Surely they would not continue into certain death. Surely they would choose survival, but the mining vessel kept flying forward. "The humans are still going," a Vicorian observer noted. There was confusion in his voice. "They should have turned back by now." "Perhaps their sensors are broken," another alien suggested. "They must not know how dangerous it is." "High Arbiter," Zelthrax watched in silence. He knew the human sensors were working perfectly. He knew they understood exactly what was happening to their bodies. They simply did not care. This disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Inside the ship, the first symptoms appeared after hour 4. Private Chen started vomiting. Lieutenant Okonkwo developed a severe nosebleed that would not stop. Specialist Rivera's hands began to shake uncontrollably. None of them stopped working. Approaching the debris field, Alina announced, "Everyone, secure yourselves. This is going to be rough." The outer edge of the asteroid cluster was chaos. Thousands of rocks tumbled through space in random patterns. Some were small as footballs. Others were large as houses. Any one of them could destroy the ship in seconds. Alina gripped the controls and began navigating through the deadly maze. Her eyes tracked dozens of objects at once. Her hands made constant adjustments. Sweat dripped down her face, but she did not blink. On the station, the Vicorian pilot watched the feed with growing amazement. Humans were slower than his species. Their reflexes were nothing special. But the human commander was doing something he had never seen before. She was not just avoiding asteroids. She was predicting them. She watched how they moved, calculated where they would be, and adjusted before they became a threat. It was not speed that saved her. It was patience, planning, the ability to think 10 steps ahead. "Call out obstacles," Alina ordered her team. "Left side, right side, above, below. I need to know everything." The humans worked together as one unit. Each person watched a different section of space. They called out warnings in rapid sequence. Their voices overlapped, but never confused each other. They moved like parts of a single organism. Halfway through the debris field, disaster struck. A rock appeared from nowhere, hidden behind a larger asteroid. It was moving too fast to avoid. Alina tried to turn, but there was no time. The impact tore a hole in the side of the ship. Air rushed out into space. 3 humans were in that section: Private Yamamoto, Corporal Singh, and Lieutenant Park. They had seconds before the vacuum killed them. They did not try to escape. Instead, they sealed the damaged compartment from the inside. They trapped themselves with the breach. Their sacrifice saved the ship and everyone else on board. Alina heard the compartment seal shut. She heard the air stop rushing. She heard nothing else from that section. "They are gone," she said quietly. Her voice cracked, but she kept flying. There was no time to mourn. Not yet. 9 humans remained. The mining vessel limped forward through the debris field. More asteroids struck, glancing blows. Systems failed one by one. The engines coughed and sputtered. But the ship kept moving. After 6 more hours, they finally cleared the debris field. The core asteroid floated before them, massive and deadly and dark. They had reached their target, but the radiation here was even worse. The sensors stopped working because the numbers were too high to measure. The humans could feel it now. Heat in their bones, pressure behind their eyes. Their bodies were cooking from the inside. "How long do we have?" Alina asked Mindash-Jun. The doctor checked his equipment. The readings were grim. "For hours, maybe 5. After that, our organs will start failing. We will not have the strength to plant the charges." "Then we work fast," Darius Cole said. He was already putting on his spacesuit. "I will lead the charge placement team. Quan, you coordinate from the ship?" "Commander, keep us on target," Alina nodded. "Darius, be careful." Cole smiled at her. It was a sad smile, but a real one. "Careful is for people who plan to live forever. I just plan to finish the job." 5 humans went outside to plant the charges: Cole, Martinez, Okonkwo, Chen, and Rivera. They moved across the asteroid's surface like ghosts, placing explosives at precise coordinates. The work was slow and painful. Their bodies were failing. Their hands shook, their vision blurred, but they did not stop. Back on the station, Kira 7 floated beside the main screen. She had not moved in hours. She watched every moment of the mission with desperate attention. Why do they not give up? She asked no one in particular. They are dying. They must know they are dying. Why do they keep going? An old crystalline scientist stood nearby. He had studied hundreds of species in his long career. He thought he understood biology better than anyone alive. "I do not know," he admitted. "Their bodies should have failed by now. By every measurement we have, they should be dead or unconscious. But they keep moving. They keep working. It is like their willpower is overriding their physical limitations." "Is that possible?" Kira 7 asked. The scientist shook his head slowly. "It should not be. But I am watching it happen." On the asteroid, the charge placement was nearly complete. But the core was more massive than expected. The explosives they brought would fracture it, but not enough. Some large fragments would still hit the station. Cole made a decision. He contacted the ship on a private channel. "Commander, I have bad news. We need someone to manually detonate the charges. The remote system will not provide enough precision. Someone needs to stay here and trigger them at exactly the right moment." Elena closed her eyes. She knew what he was asking. "Darius, there has to be another way." "There is not. You know there is not." His voice was gentle but firm. "Get the others back to the ship. Save who you can. I will handle the rest. Darius." "It has been an honor, Commander. Tell the galaxy what humans can do. Tell them we were not weak. We were just different." Before Elena could respond, Cole disconnected his radio. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was his sister, reading his letter by now. Somewhere out there were billions of humans who would never know his name but would live because of what he did. Today, he had 4 hours of oxygen left, he began, climbing toward the detonation point. and he did not look back. Every screen on Concorde Prime displayed the same image. A single human climbing across an asteroid in the darkness of space. His vital signs scrolled along the bottom of the display. Heart rate elevated, oxygen depleting. Radiation exposure far beyond survivable levels. Sergeant Darius Cole was dying. Everyone watching knew it. And still he climbed. High, Arbiter Zelthrax stood motionless in the command center. He had led the Galactic Concorde for 200 years. He had witnessed countless acts of bravery and sacrifice. He had never seen anything like this. Why does he not stop? Zelthrax asked quietly. His body is failing. Every step must be agony. Why does he continue? No one had an answer. On the mining vessel, Commander Elena Vasquez made the hardest decision of her life. The remaining team members needed to return to the ship. They needed to evacuate before their bodies failed completely. Cole would handle the detonation alone. Everyone back to the ship, she ordered. Her voice was steady, but tears streamed down her face. That is an order, Martinez argued. We cannot leave him. There must be something we can do. There is nothing, Elena said. He made his choice. Now we honor it by surviving. By telling the galaxy what happened here. Move, now. The surviving humans retreated to the ship. 4 of them could still walk. 2 had to be carried. Dr. Kwan Minjone worked frantically to stabilize the worst cases. His own hands were covered in radiation burns. But he ignored the pain. The mining vessel began its journey back toward the station. Behind them, Cole's signal grew fainter. On the asteroid, Cole reached the detonation point. His oxygen showed 2 hours remaining. His legs had stopped working properly 10 minutes ago. He had crawled the last 50 meters on his hands and knees, but he had made it. He positioned himself. Beside the main explosive charge, from here he could see the entire asteroid core. He could see the precise moment when detonation would cause maximum fracturing. He just had to wait for the right time. His radio crackled. A voice came through that he did not expect. Sergeant Cole, this is High Arbiter Zelthrax. Cole almost laughed. Hi, Arbiter. Did you call to mock me one more time before I die? There was a long pause. When Zelthrax spoke again, his voice sounded different, smaller, almost humble. I called to apologize, Zelthrax said. I have led the Concorde for 2 centuries. I have judged thousands of species by their physical capabilities. I believed strength meant power, speed, durability. I was wrong. Cole said nothing. He was saving his breath. I have spent the last several hours reviewing human history, Zelthrax continued. I have seen recordings of humans running into burning buildings to save strangers. I have seen humans diving into frozen water to rescue drowning children. I have seen humans donating parts of their own bodies to keep others alive. I have seen humans standing against impossible odds again and again and again. The insectoid leader's voice cracked slightly. I do not understand it. My species does not work this way. We calculate costs and benefits. We preserve ourselves first. We would never sacrifice our lives for species who insulted us. But you do. Your entire species does. And I do not have words for what that makes me feel. Cole managed a weak smile. Sounds like you are feeling respect, High Arbiter.
Nice.
Zelthrax admitted. I believe I am. I have one request, Sergeant Cole. One thing I ask before you complete your mission. What is it? Tell me what you want. Not for yourself. You have already accepted death. But for your people. For humanity, what do you want the Concorde to do? Cole thought about the question. He thought about his sister back on Earth. He thought about the billions of humans who dreamed of reaching the stars. He thought about the crew members who had died beside him, whose bodies would drift in space forever. Save my people, he finally said. The ones on the ship, they gave everything for this mission. Make sure they get home. Make sure the galaxy knows what they did. That is all I want. Zelthrax was silent for a moment. It will be done. I give you my word. And we have nothing more to discuss, Cole said. It has been interesting talking with you, High Arbiter. Maybe next time your species judges mine, you will remember today. I will remember, Zelthrax replied. The entire galaxy will remember. The connection ended. Cole looked at his oxygen meter. 90 minutes remaining? The detonation window would open in 45 minutes. He could feel his body shutting down. His vision was blurring. His hands were numb. But his mind was still clear. His purpose was still strong. He waited. Back on the station, something remarkable was happening. A Vicorian medical officer stepped forward and began preparing treatment protocols for human physiology. They will need care when they return, she announced. I am studying their biology now. Other aliens stared at her in surprise. Vicorians were proud warriors. They did not serve weaker species. Why are you helping them? Someone asked as the Vicorian looked at the screen showing Cole's struggling form. Because they helped us. Because they are dying for us. Because I was wrong about what weakness means. One by one, other aliens began to help. A crystalline engineer boosted the mining vessel's failing engines remotely. A Threskin communications officer opened priority channels for human signals. A dozen different species contributed in a dozen different ways. The station that had mocked humans 48 hours ago was now working desperately to save them. Dr. Quan Minjin collapsed from exhaustion. When he woke up, Kira 7 was floating beside him. Her golden light pulsed gently, warming his face. You should not be here, Minjan whispered. The medical bay is contaminated with radiation. I do not care, Kira 7 replied. You explained human friendship to me. You said friends stay together during hard times. I am staying. Minjun felt tears forming in his eyes. Thank you, Kira. Your people confuse me, the Luminary admitted. You are dying. Your sergeant is dying. Your friends are dying. And yet you seem at peace. How is that possible? Minjan thought about the question. Because we did something that mattered. Because we made a choice to help others instead of just saving ourselves. That is how humans find peace. Not by avoiding death, but by making death mean something. Kira 7's light flickered as she processed this. I think I understand now. You are not strong because you cannot be broken. You are strong because you break for good reasons. Yes, Minjun smiled weakly. That is exactly right. On the asteroid, Cole's oxygen meter showed 15 minutes remaining. His body was failing completely now. He could not move his legs. He could barely lift his arms, but his eyes still worked. His finger could still press the detonation trigger. He watched the asteroid core rotating slowly. He watched the precise point where the charges needed to explode for maximum effect. He counted down in his head. 30 seconds? 20 seconds? 10 seconds. Cole thought about everyone on the station. Millions of beings who would live because of this moment. Species he had never met. Children who would grow up. Families who would stay together. Lives that would continue because 12 humans said yes when everyone else said impossible. He thought about his sister reading his letter. He thought about Earth. Spinning somewhere in the distance, full of people who would never know his name. He thought about what it meant to be human. 5 seconds, 4.3.2.1. Not bad for a weak species, he whispered, and pressed the trigger. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but its effect was immediate. The asteroid core fractured into 1,000 pieces. The fragments scattered in every direction, pushed apart by the force of the blast. The deadly cluster that had threatened millions of lives broke apart, like glass hitting stone, on every screen across the station. Cole's vital signs flatlined. Silence fell over Concord Prime. Then slowly, a sound began to build. It started in the human quarters, where a handful of Earth's representatives wept openly. It spread to the Luminary section, where beings of light dimmed in mourning. It moved through the Vicorian halls, where warriors stood at attention. It reached the command center, where High Arbiter Zelthrax bowed his head in grief. The entire station mourned a human they had called weak. And in that moment, everything changed. The mining vessel limped back to Concord Prime, with 6 humans aboard. 4 were conscious. 2 were in critical condition. All of them carried enough radiation in their bodies to kill an ordinary person 10 times over. But humans were not ordinary. They never had been. Medical teams from 12 different species waited at the docking bay. Doctors who had never treated humans before studied their biology through the night. Equipment was modified. Medicines were synthesized. Everything possible was done to save the survivors, Commander. Lena Vasquez refused treatment until her entire team was stable. She sat in the waiting area for 14 hours watching doctors work on her people. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She just waited. When Dr. Quan Minjin finally opened his eyes, Elena was there. "Did it work?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "It worked," Elena confirmed. "The asteroid is gone. The station is safe. Everyone is alive because of us." Minjin closed his eyes. Tears leaked from beneath his lids. Kolalina shook her head slowly. He completed the mission. He saved everyone. And then he was gone. They sat in silence for a long moment, mourning their friend, their brother, their hero. 3 days later, the Galactic Concord held a memorial ceremony. It was the largest gathering in station history. Representatives from every member species attended. Even species who had openly mocked humans stood in respectful silence. High Arbiter Zelthrax addressed the assembly. His voice echoed through the Grand Council chamber. "We gathered today to honor those who gave their lives for this station. Private Yamamoto, Corporal Singh, Lieutenant Park, Sergeant Darius Cole. These humans did not know most of us. They had been here only 2 days. We had tested them and found them weak. We had judged them and found them lacking. And yet, when death came for us all, they stepped forward." The chamber was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. "I have led this Concord for 200 years, Zelthrax continued. "I believed I understood strength. I believed I understood courage. I was wrong. I measured humanity by the wrong standards. I counted their physical limitations and ignored their limitless spirit. I saw fragile bodies and missed unbreakable wills." He paused, his compound eyes sweeping across the crowd. "The humans could not lift what we lift. They could not survive what we survive. They could not see what we see, but they could do what we could not. They could choose suffering for the sake of strangers. They could run toward death if life waited on the other side for others. They could look at impossible odds and say yes anyway." Zelthrax turned to face Commander Vasquez, who stood with her surviving team. "On behalf of the Galactic Concord, I offer humanity full membership. Not as a provisional species, not as a trial member. Full council status, with all rights and responsibilities. This is the fastest elevation in Concord history, and it is the least we can do." The chamber erupted in applause. Species who had never agreed on anything united in this moment. The sound was deafening. It went on for several minutes. Alina stepped forward to accept. Her team stood behind her. For humans who had walked into certain death and somehow walked back out, "We accept," Alina said simply. "Not for glory, not for power, but because there is work to do. The galaxy is full of problems that need solving, full of people who need help, and that is what humans do. We help, even when it is hard, even when it hurts, even when no one asks us to." She looked out at the assembled species. "You called us weak, and by your measures, maybe we are, but we have a different measure. We ask not what a species can endure, but what they will endure for others. We ask not how much they can lift, but how much they will carry for those who cannot carry themselves. By that measure, humans will always stand tall." The ceremony ended with the eternal light ritual, the highest honor the Concord could bestow. Golden flames were lit for each fallen human. Their names were carved into the memorial wall, where they would remain for eternity. Beneath the names, a single line was engraved. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were simply unwilling to let others die. In the weeks that followed, humanity's role in the Concord grew rapidly. Dr. Quan Minjun established a cultural exchange program between humans and other species. Ambassador Virel became humanity's strongest advocate on the council. Kira 7 visited Earth and returned with endless stories about the strange, wonderful planet that had produced such remarkable beings. High Arbiter Zelthrax personally visited Earth to pay respects to the families of the fallen. He stood in Darius Cole's childhood home and spoke with Cole's sister for hours. He told her everything. He told her about her brother's bravery. He told her about his final words. He told her how one human had changed the way an entire galaxy thought about strength. He wanted you to know something, Zelthrax said before leaving. He said not to be sad. He said some things are worth dying for. He said he was proud to be human. Cole's sister wiped her tears and nodded. He was always like that. Always helping others. Always putting himself last. I used to worry it would get him killed someday. She paused. I suppose it did. But he saved millions of lives. That sounds like him. That sounds exactly like him. The Concord changed. Other species began adopting human philosophies. The concept of sacrifice for strangers spread across the galaxy. Medical teams started volunteering for dangerous missions. Engineers offered to work in hazardous conditions. Warriors began measuring honor by what they protected, not what they conquered. Humanity had not just joined the Concord. Humanity had transformed it. One day a new species arrived at the station. They called themselves the Kalor. They were small and fragile-looking, with thin limbs and large, nervous eyes. They moved hesitantly, clearly expecting mockery and rejection. The Concord representatives began their standard assessment. Strength tests. Survival tests. Sensory tests. The Kalori failed most of them. They were not strong. They were not fast. They could not survive extreme conditions. A Vakorian delegate opened his mouth to make a dismissive comment. Before he could speak, a human representative intervened. Wait, she said. Before we judge them, let me ask a question, eh? She turned to the Kalori leader. When one of your people is in danger, what do the others do? The Kalori leader seemed confused by the question. We help them. We always help them. Even if it is dangerous. Even if it might hurt us. We cannot stand by while others suffer. The human smiled. I thought so. She turned to the Vakorian delegate. I would be careful about judging them too quickly. We once made the mistake of measuring a species by what they could not do rather than what they would do. It nearly cost us everything, the Vakorian remembered. He stepped back and said nothing more. The Kalori were welcomed properly. Their application was processed fairly. They joined the Concord 3 months later, the second fastest elevation in history, and so the legacy continued. Humans had shown the galaxy that true strength was not about muscles or shields or weapons. It was about heart. It was about choice. It was about the willingness to suffer so others would not have to. Years later, a new saying spread across the stars. Children of every species learned it in school. Leaders quoted it in speeches. Warriors whispered it before battle. Never underestimate a human. They are not strong because they cannot be broken. They are strong because they will not stop. And somewhere in the eternal darkness of space, where the fragments of a shattered asteroid drifted in silence, the spirit of Darius Cole smiled. His species had proven something that day. Something the galaxy would never forget. Humans were not weak. Humans were just different. And sometimes, different was exactly what the universe needed.